Welcome, everyone, to the Bite-Sized Tech News TLDR podcast.
We're incredibly thrilled to have you with us today.
Look, if you're joining us for the first time, or if you're one of our longtime diehard listeners, you know exactly what our DNA is all about here.
Right. We know your time is your most finite resource.
Exactly. So this deep dive is engineered for speed, it's built on verified facts, and above everything else, it is squarely focused on your bottom line.
The goal is to slice right through that overwhelming avalanche of daily tech noise and get you straight to the real-world, actionable implications.
Yeah, we want to arm you with the knowledge of how today's biggest technological shifts are going to impact your immediate job security, your daily productivity metrics, and your overall trajectory as a professional.
And today, we have a massive stack of research on the desk.
We really do. We're breaking down the critical insights from LinkedIn Big Ideas 2026, Navigating the Great Acceleration.
And we are not just going to read you the headlines.
No way. We're going to rip this apart and look at the engine underneath to see what it actually means for you tomorrow morning.
That is exactly the mandate for today. We're taking this phenomenal forward-looking research regarding the projections for 2026, and we're treating it like a strategic briefing.
Right.
The scope of this conversation is designed to cover the entire professional landscape. We are actively avoiding the, theoretical 10 years down the line science fiction.
We need to talk about the immediate, tangible, structural changes that are literally hitting your desk right now.
Disrupting your team dynamics and fundamentally rewiring your industry right this very second.
Yeah.
The objective here is to equip you with the specific foresight required so that you aren't just reacting to this transition.
But actively positioning yourself to use it as a massive lever for your career.
Precisely.
So let's jump straight into the deep end and unpack the core premise of this entire report, because it really frames everything else we're going to talk about today.
It does.
The central thesis for 2026, which is being echoed by some of the most forward-thinking minds right now, is a concept they're calling the Great Acceleration.
The anchoring thought here is that change isn't just happening anymore.
Right. The rate of change is itself speeding up.
We're looking at a high-speed, high-impact collision between raw technological capability and human societal structures.
They're being forced together at an unprecedented velocity.
And this collision is spitting out some wild new opportunities, but it's also generating intense, palpable friction.
Framing it as a high-speed collision is really the only mathematically accurate way to look at it.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword for the modern workforce.
Right. On one side of the blade, you have the sheer velocity of tech,
Specifically artificial intelligence.
which is handing us productivity multipliers that would have sounded completely absurd just 36 months ago.
Yeah, but on the other side of the plate, you have the deeply rooted human element.
You have legacy organizational structures, the fragile psychology of the modern worker.
And literally, the physical concrete infrastructure of our cities, all trying desperately to avoid being crushed by that velocity.
That specific friction is what defines 2026.
Exactly. And for you, the professional tuning in right now, your primary job description, regardless of what it says on your HR profile, is navigating this exact tension,
You have to figure out how to capture the explosive upside of the acceleration.
while ruthlessly mitigating the operational and security risks of moving at breakneck speed.
To give you the strategic roadmap to actually do that, we've broken this deep dive down into 3 major actionable themes.
First, we're looking under the hood of AI's maturation.
We're talking about its shift from a shiny experimental toy to the boring, essential core infrastructure of business and the very messy reality of making that work.
Second, we're pivoting to the human side.
Right. The massive security and productivity costs associated with a very real loneliness epidemic, and how, weirdly enough, genuine human interaction is becoming a high-ticket premium commodity.
Finally, we're going to look at how these two colliding forces are forging a completely new economic reality.
We'll explore everything from the rise of what futurists are calling the individual empire to a literal cutthroat land rush for data centers.
It's an expansive agenda, but I promise you every single concept we dissect today links directly back to your earning potential and your organizational value.
So let's get into the engine room. Let's look at the primary driver of this acceleration.
All right, section 1.
The first major paradigm shift we have to tackle is AI's maturation phase.
The consensus for 2026 is that artificial intelligence has officially graduated.
We're way past the hype cycle.
We're past the cute beta tests, the viral prompt parlor tricks, and the novelty of generating funny poems.
It's transitioning into something structural.
The research compares this moment directly to the rollout of the electrical grid or the dawn of the commercial internet.
It's becoming the foundational infrastructure of the modern era. But I want to push on that a bit, because infrastructure is a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot. What does that actually look like in practice?
It's a critical distinction to make. If we look at the historical analogy of the electrical grid, it's incredibly instructive for understanding where we are today.
Okay, how so?
Think back to when factories first transitioned from steam power to electricity. They didn't just take a steam engine out, drop an electric motor in its exact place, keep the belts and pulleys exactly the same, and expect a miracle.
Right, that wouldn't work at all.
To actually capture the efficiency gains of electricity, they had to completely rip up the floor plan,
They had to redesign the architecture of the building.
change the assembly line logic, and fundamentally alter the roles of the workers.
And AI in 2026 is sitting at that exact same historical inflection point.
Exactly. 2023 and 2024 were the experimental phases. We were just marveling at the fact that the light bulb turned on.
The infrastructure phase, which we're navigating right now, requires rewiring the entire operational logic of the global economy to run on this new current.
And that is incredibly disruptive.
And that disruption brings us to a specific, highly critical insight from the research. This comes directly from Sonia Ojha, an investor over at Bain Capital Ventures.
Yeah, she argues that the real battlefield for businesses today is no longer about building a slightly better AI model.
The era where a mid-sized company could win by just having a slightly faster algorithm is over. The tech giants have commoditized the raw models.
Instead, she says the absolute most critical challenge, the make-or-break factor for productivity, is building what she calls the scaffolding.
So break that down for us. What exactly is this scaffolding?
Scaffolding is arguably the most important concept we will discuss today. It's the messy, highly complex, profoundly unglamorous connective tissue required to make a raw AI model actually function securely and profitably within a real-world enterprise.
Think about it realistically.
Right. You can have the most advanced trillion-parameter large language model in the world, but sitting by itself in a vacuum, it generates $0.
Zero. For it to offer any return on investment, it has to be hooked up to your company's proprietary data.
It needs to speak to your ancient legacy software systems that were built in
It
2014.
requires strict, ironclad security protocols.
Rigorous compliance monitoring,
Yeah.
and crucially, user interfaces that a non-technical employee in the HR or sales department can actually understand and use daily.
Okay, let's pause there, because I think a lot of leaders still assume tech is plug and play. Let's use an ELI 5 analogy explaining. Like, I'm 5.
Sure.
We throw around terms like APIs and data silos. For the listener who isn't a software engineer, what are we really talking about when we say we have to connect an AI to a data silo using an API?
That's a great request. Think of your company's proprietary data, your customer records, your past marketing campaigns, your financial histories, as a massive library of books, but they're all written in ancient Greek. That's your data silo. It's isolated. Now imagine the new AI model is an absolute genius scholar who can process information at light speed, but they only speak Japanese.
If you just lock the scholar in the library, nothing happens.
Exactly. They can't read the books. An
Mhm.
API, an application programming interface, is essentially the real-time digital translator sitting between them.
It's the bridge.
Without the API seamlessly translating the ancient Greek data into the Japanese, the AI understands, the AI is useless.
Building those bridges, ensuring they don't collapse, and making sure only authorized people can cross them, that entire architectural nightmare is the scaffolding.
I love that analogy.
So essentially what you're saying is that buying a premium corporate AI subscription without investing in the internal scaffolding to support it is like buying a Formula One Ferrari engine and trying to duct tape it to a rusty beach cruiser bicycle.
Yes. It's not going to make you go faster. It's just going to tear the bicycle apart.
That is precisely what happens, and we see it constantly.
The research explicitly states that without this robust scaffolding, the best AI model in the world is just an expensive science experiment stuck in an IT lab.
It has zero practical business value.
This is the wake-up call for the executive or the manager who thinks they can just buy off-the-shelf software, toss it to their team, and expect a 50% bump in quarterly productivity.
It does not work.
The immediate productivity impact for your specific team hinges entirely on your organization's willingness and ability to do the dirty work of integrating it properly.
Let's talk about the dark side of that duct tape, though. What happens if a company tries to skip the scaffolding or does a poor job of it?
That's where things get scary.
What's the actual bottom line security risk for the listener's company?
The security risks are nothing short of catastrophic.
How so?
If you try to deploy advanced AI tools without the proper connective tissue, meaning without robust data governance, secure and vetted APIs, and highly specific access hierarchies, you're effectively leaving the vault door wide open.
Let's look at a realistic hypothetical.
Okay, say you have an eager, mid-level employee who wants to impress their boss by summarizing a massive 200-page confidential client strategy document.
Without internal scaffolding like a secure, localized AI environment.
That employee might just copy and paste that highly sensitive proprietary data into a public open-source AI model on the web to get the summary.
Wow. So they've just fed trade secrets into a public machine learning model that might use that data to train itself, effectively leaking it to the public domain.
Exactly. Or consider automated workflows.
Right.
If you build a flimsy API bridge between an AI and your financial systems without proper authorization checks, an AI hallucination could theoretically trigger unauthorized automated purchases or alter client billing records.
So when we talk about scaffolding, it's not just an IT efficiency optimization.
It is the fundamental bedrock of enterprise security in 2026.
Ignore the unglamorous scaffolding, and your project will fail, your promised productivity will evaporate.
And your company will likely end up on the front page of the news for a massive data breach.
That reframes the entire conversation. It makes total sense why the research highlights a massive paradigm shift in how professionals need to think.
The report references a specific slide that perfectly encapsulates this.
It points out that the defining question for professionals is no longer, hey, what can this AI model do?
That was the fascination of 2023.
The new critical question for 2026 is, where in our organization can we actually use it safely and effectively?
That pivot in thinking is the difference between a company that survives the Great Acceleration and one that gets crushed by it.
Asking what can it do is a technology-centric question.
Asking where can we use it is a business-centric question. It forces you to look inward.
You have to conduct rigorous audits of your own internal workflows.
You have to identify the exact friction points, the operational bottlenecks, and the repetitive data entry tasks.
And then figure out how an automated intelligence can seamlessly remove that specific friction without breaking the surrounding processes.
You don't need intimate knowledge of Python code to do this. You need intimate, granular knowledge of how your business actually makes money.
Which perfectly sets up what I think is one of the most fascinating developments highlighted in the research.
Oh, absolutely.
Because businesses are suddenly realizing they desperately need people who can figure out the where and how of AI integration. We're seeing a massive structural reshaping of higher education.
The sources point to the rapid rise of what they're calling AI whispering majors at universities.
But here's the curveball. These new degrees aren't being housed in the computer science departments.
They aren't for the hardcore coders.
No, these AI whispering programs are being aggressively targeted at liberal arts students.
We're talking about the future graphic designers, the corporate lawyers, the marketing strategists, the sociologists.
Why the sudden pivot away from the engineer?
It's a brilliant market correction. We've spent the last decade fetishizing the software engineer, and rightly so, they built the foundation. But today, businesses are waking up to a stark reality. They possess a massive surplus of raw computing power, but a terrifying deficit of human beings who know how to apply that power to nuanced, real-world human problems.
The reason these programs are targeting liberal arts students comes down to one word: translation.
Translation. Break that down for us, because I can hear a lot of STEM professionals screaming at their speakers right now.
Let me be clear. The engineers are still vital for building the engine.
Right.
But a hardcore machine learning engineer deeply understands mathematical weights, vector databases, and neural network architecture.
What they often do not understand is the highly nuanced, messy reality of consumer psychology, or the labyrinthine complexities of international contract law.
A corporate lawyer, however, understands exactly what makes a contract legally binding and where the liability loopholes are.
A marketer intuitively understands brand narrative, cultural resonance, and human desire.
The AI whisperer is the professional who sits in the middle.
Their job is to act as the essential translator between the raw, literal, often blunt output of the machine and the nuanced, complex needs of the business and society.
Let's invent a hypothetical scenario to make this concrete for the listener.
Let's do it.
Imagine a mid-level marketing manager named Sarah. How does Sarah's day look different if she adopts this AI whisperer skill set versus just trying to compete on traditional metrics?
That's a perfect way to look at it. Let's say Sarah's company needs to launch a massive multinational ad campaign.
Okay.
If Sarah operates the old way, she spends 3 weeks coordinating with copywriters, graphic designers, and translation teams to generate 10 possible campaign
Right,
concepts.
very slow.
But if Sarah is an AI whisperer, she doesn't need to know how to code the AI. Instead, she intimately understands her company's brand voice, the specific cultural sensitivities of the target demographics, and the strategic goals of the quarter.
She uses her deep liberal arts understanding of psychology and language to engineer highly complex prompts.
Exactly. Within 4 hours, the AI generates 200 campaign variations, fully localized for 12 different regions.
But the AI doesn't know which of those 200 is actually good, right? It just outputs volume.
Precisely. That is the translation gap.
The AI might generate a campaign that is mathematically perfectly optimized for click-through rates, but is culturally tone-deaf and would cause a massive PR disaster in Europe.
Sarah, the AI whisperer, uses her human judgment, her ethical grounding, and her cultural empathy to filter those 200 outputs, refine the best 3.
And seamlessly integrate them into the company's existing deployment software via that API scaffolding we talked about earlier.
The raw machine generated the volume, but Sarah generated the actual business value.
So for the listener mapping out their career trajectory, the bottom line is this. Developing this specific synthesis skill is your ultimate job security policy for 2026.
Technical capability is rapidly becoming a cheap, commoditized utility.
But the human judgment required to guide that capability, spot its inherent biases, and translate its output into safe, profitable business solutions.
That is incredibly scarce.
If you can be the person who looks at a chaotic business problem, identifies the right AI tool to solve it, and builds the safe workflow to connect the two, you will be untouchable.
You'll effectively be writing your own ticket.
The highest premiums in the labor market are no longer going to the people who build the technology.
They're going to the people who master the application of the technology.
That is a phenomenal transition into the second major theme of our deep dive.
Because while mastering this hyper-efficient, highly automated AI infrastructure is incredibly lucrative, it is also triggering a profound, deeply concerning human cost.
We're moving faster and more efficiently than ever before, but it's taking a massive psychological toll.
Let's open up section 2. The security and productivity cost of the loneliness epidemic.
This is where the collision between technology and humanity gets incredibly stark and, frankly, quite uncomfortable for a lot of tech optimists to acknowledge.
Over the last 20 years, we've brilliantly engineered a world of frictionless digital transactions.
We optimize communication to be instant, asynchronous, and remote.
But we're now realizing, with alarming clarity, that human neurology did not evolve to thrive in a frictionless, purely digital void.
The psychological toll of this acceleration is immense, and it's bleeding directly into corporate balance sheets.
The research brings forward some data from the American Psychological Association that literally made me stop reading and reread the paragraph.
They're reporting that currently 7 in 10 adults feel like they are not getting the emotional support they need to function optimally.
70% of the adult population.
The irony that the report points out is brutal. The very social platforms, workplace messaging apps, and communication tech that were explicitly sold to us as tools to connect the world have actually left the vast majority feeling profoundly, deeply isolated.
When you look at that 70% figure purely through the lens of business operations, it's a terrifying metric for any organizational leader.
We often treat loneliness as a personal after-hours issue.
It is not. It's a critical operational vulnerability.
If 7 out of 10 of your employees feel isolated, disconnected, and unsupported, you're looking at a catastrophic silent drain on your company's productivity.
Neurologically, acute loneliness triggers a stress response that severely degrades executive function.
It destroys engagement, limits creative problem solving, and ruins collaborative synergy.
You cannot run a high-performing, agile enterprise if your workforce is psychologically compromised.
And beyond just productivity, let's talk about the security implications, because I don't think people connect loneliness to corporate cybersecurity.
They really don't.
How does an isolated workforce become a threat vector?
It is one of the most underdiscussed vectors in cybersecurity today.
Okay.
Isolated employees are vastly more susceptible to social engineering attacks. Think about spear phishing.
Right.
If an employee is working remotely, feeling totally disconnected from their team, and they receive an urgent, slightly odd email from someone claiming to be the CEO asking for a wire transfer, They don't have that organic friction of leaning over to the person at the next desk and saying, hey, does this look weird to you?
They are operating in a silo.
Furthermore, profound isolation breeds resentment, which radically increases the risk of insider threat scenarios.
A connected, culturally integrated employee protects the organization.
An isolated, alienated employee is a massive vulnerability.
So society is waking up to this 70% crisis. How are we trying to fix it?
The research outlines two radically different, almost ideologically opposed solutions emerging to 2026.
Let's look at the first one, which the report dubs the tech fix.
This involves Silicon Valley looking at the loneliness epidemic and saying, we have an app for that.
We're seeing the massive deployment of AI companions, highly conversational chatbots, and simulated digital friends meant to act as a band-aid for human isolation.
The tech fix is a fascinating, if deeply unsettling phenomenon.
It's the ultimate example of attempting to use the exact tool that caused the disease to cure the symptoms.
From a purely capitalist, scalable productivity standpoint,
Yeah.
you can absolutely see why tech companies are pushing this.
An AI companion scales infinitely. It's available at 3 a.m.
It never gets tired, it never judges you, and it doesn't require any emotional reciprocity.
It was a friction-free relationship.
Let me push back on that, though. I have to ask, isn't this inherently dystopian?
It feels like it.
If I'm genuinely lonely and I'm talking to a machine that has been algorithmically optimized to agree with me and validate my every thought just to keep me engaged on the platform, that doesn't feel like a cure.
It feels like a psychological trap.
Is the research actually suggesting this is a viable, healthy fix for the workforce?
No, and your skepticism is exactly where the psychological community is landing.
It's a simulation of empathy, not actual emotional support.
True human connection requires vulnerability, shared risk, and mutual effort.
It requires friction.
Relying on an algorithmic echo chamber as a digital band-aid is dangerous.
It risks creating a workforce that is superficially pacified in the short term, but over the long term, they become fundamentally disconnected from objective reality.
And increasingly incapable of navigating the messy, unscripted nuances of real human relationships.
It's treating a gaping wound with a digital hologram of a bandage.
And that realization is fueling the second solution, which the research describes as a massive, surging countermovement.
This is a deliberate, highly conscious pushback against the digital band-aid.
The examples the source gives are incredibly telling. We're seeing a massive rise in aggressively phone-free schools.
And adults actively paying to join structured, real-world community-building groups where technology is strictly prohibited at the door.
This counter-movement is arguably the most important market signal we've seen in a decade.
It's the undeniable proof that the pendulum is violently swinging back.
People are beginning to recognize that their attention is being strip-mined.
And they're actively seeking out and paying for environments where the digital noise is forcibly removed so that genuine, unmediated human interaction can actually occur.
The phone-free schools are just the leading edge.
What you need to watch for is how this infiltrates the corporate sphere.
We're already seeing the early signs. Device-free executive meeting zones, strictly mandated offline collaborative hours.
And a massive resurgence in physical off-site retreats.
Wait, really? Because over the last few years, the narrative was that the office is dead, remote work is king, and everything will happen in VR.
Are companies really forcing offline time?
The smart ones are, because the data is showing that while you can do routine, frictionless task execution brilliantly over Zoom,
you cannot generate high-value, breakthrough collaborative thinking in a digital grid of muted microphones.
the kind of trust and creative synergy that leads to massive innovation requires the undivided, unfiltered presence of human minds working together in a shared physical space.
The companies that figure out how to balance AI automation with deliberate offline human collaboration are going to dominate.
Which brings us to a concept in the research that absolutely blew my mind, and I think it is the most actionable takeaway for the listener so far.
Because of this massive tension between the speed of tech and our desperate psychological need for connection, a brand new economic value system is emerging.
The report calls it the premium on human friction.
Things that used to be considered totally mundane, totally ordinary, like having a real, unscripted conversation with a stranger or sharing a physical experience.
They're suddenly becoming high-ticket premium products.
It's a profound inversion of the economic models we've operated under for 20 years.
Since the dawn of the smartphone, the holy grail of the entire tech industry has been the absolute elimination of friction.
One-click checkout, Algorithmic curation predicting what you want before you know it. Automated chatbots replacing customer service reps.
The entire goal was to remove the human being from the transaction loop in order to maximize speed and drive down costs.
But the unintended consequence of that success is that in 2026, a completely frictionless, automated experience is no longer impressive.
It's expected. It's a cheap, ubiquitous commodity.
Therefore, it commands zero premium value.
The actual economic value has migrated to the exact opposite end of the spectrum. The deliberate, unscalable, genuine human interaction.
The research gives a fantastic, real-world example of this playing out in retail strategy right now.
We're actually seeing high-end retailers intentionally redesigning their stores to add human friction back into the customer journey.
They're purposefully slowing down the checkout process, removing self-checkout kiosks, and adding mandatory human touchpoints.
Why? Because they know consumers are walking around in a digital daze, literally craving tangible evidence that a real interaction just took place.
When you dissect the psychology of the modern consumer, that strategy makes perfect sense.
When 90% of your daily interactions are mediated by a glowing piece of glass and optimized by an invisible algorithm, you start to suffer from a pervasive sense of reality deprivation.
A human cashier who actually makes eye contact, notices what you are buying, and asks a genuine question about your day isn't just processing a financial transaction.
They're providing psychological validation. They're proving that you exist in the physical world.
For a retailer, training and paying staff to provide that validation is no longer viewed as an operational inefficiency.
It's their core brand differentiator.
It's the singular reason the consumer will put on shoes, drive across town, and pay a 20% margin on a product they could have had drone delivered to their porch for cheaper.
So let's tie this directly to the bottom line of the listener right now. What does this premium on human friction mean for the average professional plotting their career moves?
It means that your ability to be genuinely, authentically, complexly human is no longer just a nice-to-have soft skill that gets a bullet point at the bottom of your resume.
It's your primary, highly lucrative competitive advantage.
We need to be blunt here. If your daily job consists primarily of executing a series of predictable, frictionless digital transactions,
If you are just moving data from spreadsheet A to database B,
your job is going to be automated by the scaffolding we discussed in Section 1. It is inevitable.
but if your role demands high-stakes negotiation, reading the subtle body language of a reluctant client, building deep-rooted trust, demonstrating complex empathy, or navigating the messy, irrational nuances of human organizational politics, you possess a premium product.
So the strategy isn't to try and outcompute the machine.
The strategy is to audit your own workday, figure out what parts of your job are frictionless data processing, use AI to automate those completely,
And then reinvest 100% of that saved time into doubling down on the human friction parts of your role.
precisely. You automate the mundane to premiumize the human.
Reallocate your energy toward deepening client relationships, mentoring junior staff, and engaging in the high-touch, messy interactions that a trillion-parameter algorithm simply cannot replicate.
In a hyper-automated marketplace, authentic human connection is the ultimate scarcity.
And basic economics dictates that scarcity commands the highest premium.
That is incredibly empowering. It essentially means our humanity is our best defense against obsolescence.
But this massive push and pull, the acceleration of AI on one hand and the intense premium on human connection on the other, isn't just changing how we feel or how we shop.
It is physically and structurally forging a brand new global economic reality.
Which brings us to our third and final major theme. Section 3, forging a new economic reality.
The tectonic plates of the economy are shifting.
When you combine the maturation of AI infrastructure with this new premium on distinct human value, the landscape above those plates completely transforms.
We're witnessing the rapid creation of entirely new asset classes, totally new power dynamics, and a completely rewritten rulebook for how wealth is generated.
And the first new rule of engagement the research outlines is a massive curveball.
It centers on a prediction from futurist Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's his concept of the rise of the individual empire.
According to this research, we're entering an era where individual human creators, single people, are going to possess the operational power and the revenue-generating capabilities that used to be reserved entirely for massive multinational enterprises.
The concept of the individual empire represents a fundamental historical inversion of corporate power dynamics.
Let's look at the history of business. For the last century, if you wanted to build a true enterprise-scale business, you needed massive capital aggregation.
Why? Because you had to hire an army of human beings.
You needed a manufacturing division, a global marketing team, an in-house legal department, and a massive distribution logistics network.
Therefore, all the economic power was naturally concentrated in massive, slow-moving corporate entities.
What Vaynerchuk is predicting, and what the economic data in this report is confirming, is that the Great Acceleration is rapidly democratizing the means of enterprise-scale production down to the level of a single, highly motivated human being.
The research breaks down the mechanics of how this is actually possible into a three-pillar strategy.
And I want us to dissect each of these pillars deeply, because this is the blueprint for the next decade of wealth creation.
Pillar 1 is the launch of personal products.
Pillar 2 is utilizing blockchain technology for absolute control.
And Pillar 3 is leveraging AI to scale infinitely.
Let's start with Pillar 1, personal products. How is an individual competing with corporate supply chains?
Pillar 1 is possible because manufacturing and fulfillment have transitioned into highly accessible, globalized, on-demand services.
10 years ago, launching a physical product required millions in upfront capital for factory tooling and warehouse space.
Today, an individual creator with a strong audience can ideate a product, let's say a highly specialized skincare line or a custom piece of tech hardware.
They contract an on-demand, white-label manufacturer overseas via a digital marketplace, and they integrate a third-party logistics API into their website.
The creator never touches a single box.
They simply provide the creative vision and the audience trust, and a global network of specialized automated firms handles the entire physical supply chain.
The barrier to entry for physical goods has effectively dropped to zero.
That leads perfectly into Pillar 2, which is where things get really futuristic, utilizing blockchain technology.
Now, for a lot of our listeners, the word blockchain just triggers memories of the wild crypto casino of 2021.
But the research is talking about this as a fundamental business utility.
Let's ELI 5 this. How does blockchain actually help a single creator build an empire?
We have to separate the underlying technology of blockchain from the speculative trading of cryptocurrencies.
Think of a blockchain not as a coin, but as a hyper-secure, globally distributed, unhackable digital ledger.
For the individual empire, the killer application of blockchain is the smart contract.
Let's use an analogy.
A traditional contract requires a lawyer to write it, a bank to process the money, and a court to enforce it if someone doesn't pay. It's slow and expensive.
A smart contract is like a digital vending machine. The rules are baked into the code.
If someone buys the creator's digital product, the smart contract automatically, instantly routes the payment directly to the creator's digital wallet.
Completely bypassing the traditional banking gatekeepers, the platform fees, and the international currency exchange delays.
So it's about absolute financial sovereignty.
Exactly. It provides cryptographically secure proof of ownership.
If the creator launches a digital asset, a piece of art, or access to an exclusive community, the blockchain verifies who owns it.
And guarantees that every time that asset is resold in the future, a 10% royalty is automatically routed back to the creator in real time.
It strips away the middlemen, who traditionally siphoned off the profit of individual talent.
Which brings us to the third pillar, the absolute accelerant, leveraging AI to scale the brand.
The creator has the product, they have the secure financial piping, but how do they do the work of a 50-person marketing team?
The AI becomes their infinite, tireless workforce.
We talked about scaffolding earlier. The individual empire builder constructs their own personal scaffolding.
They use AI agents to instantly translate and dub their video content into 50 different languages, immediately opening up global markets.
They deploy highly tuned language models to handle 10,000 customer service inquiries simultaneously with empathy and precision.
They use AI to analyze market trends, generate ad copy, and optimize pricing dynamically.
The creator provides the core human friction, the original thought, the authentic personality, the creative spark.
And the AI amplifies that spark to a global scale instantly.
So if you combine those three accessible global supply chains, decentralized financial sovereignty via smart contracts, and infinite AI labor, you certainly have a single 25-year-old operating out of their living room who is generating the revenue, the reach, and the cultural impact of a traditional mid-sized corporation.
For the listener who is currently sitting in a cubicle at a Fortune 500 company, what does this mean for them? What happens to the traditional corporate ladder?
It creates a massive retention crisis for traditional enterprises.
Historically, corporations retain their top talent by offering resources the talent couldn't access on their own. Marketing budgets, distribution networks, legal protection.
But if the top 1% of your talent The visionaries, the brilliant communicators, the high performers realize they can access all of those resources via AI and blockchain for pennies on the dollar. Why would they stay and give the corporation 90% of the value they create?
Enterprises are waking up to the fact that they aren't just competing with rival companies for market share anymore.
They're now actively competing against the very real temptation of their own best employees leaving to build individual empires.
The entire incentive structure of corporate employment is going to have to be reimagined.
It really is a total restructuring of the labor market.
But let's shift gears because this transition to a highly digital, AI-driven, decentralized creator economy has a surprisingly massive, incredibly heavy physical footprint.
And that brings us to the most visceral part of the research, the AI real estate land rush.
The report highlights a single metric that genuinely made me do a double take.
It reveals that in specific key locations right now, a single acre of land, 1 acre of dirt, is selling for $6 million.
Why? Simply because it is perfectly zoned and situated to build a data center. $6 million an acre.
That metric is the perfect antidote to the illusion of the cloud.
We use these ethereal terms like the cloud or cyberspace or artificial intelligence, and it tricks us into thinking this technology is invisible and weightless.
It is not. The great acceleration is inherently massively physical.
Running these trillion-parameter AI models requires staggering, almost incomprehensible amounts of specialized computing hardware.
And those massive servers have to live in sprawling, hyper-secure industrial facilities that require an astronomical amount of electricity and highly specialized liquid cooling infrastructure just to keep from melting down.
So unpack the economics of this for us. Why $6 million an acre? Why can't tech companies just buy cheap farmland in the middle of nowhere and build a warehouse?
Because the geographic requirements for an AI data center are incredibly rare and hyper-specific. You cannot just build one anywhere.
First and foremost, you need massive, highly stable, uninterrupted power.
We're talking about facilities that require the same electricity footprint as a mid-sized city.
Therefore, the land has to be situated directly adjacent to major power grids, and tech companies are increasingly demanding proximity to clean, baseload power like nuclear plants or massive dedicated renewable arrays to meet their ESG goals.
Second, you need latency speed. The land has to sit directly on top of major continental fiber optic trunk lines so the data can travel at the speed of light without bottlenecking.
And third, from a security standpoint, the land has to be geographically stable, meaning zero risk of earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes, and situated in a politically secure jurisdiction.
So when you overlap the map of stable power, fiber optic trunks, and geographic safety, the Venn diagram gets incredibly small.
Exactly. The supply of suitable buildable land is severely restricted, while the demand from every major tech giant racing to build the AI infrastructure we talked about in Section 1 is effectively infinite.
This thirst for AI computation is literally altering the physical real estate market.
It is birthing entirely new asset classes.
We're seeing institutional investment capital abandoning traditional commercial real estate, like downtown office high-rises, which are empty due to remote work,
And aggressively pouring billions into data center infrastructure and industrial power grid development.
And to connect this back to the listener's bottom line, why should a mid-level manager or a software developer care about commercial real estate trends?
Because this specific land rush is actively dictating the geographic future of the economy.
It's deciding where the next generation of tech hubs will be built.
The high-paying, future-proof jobs of 2026 and beyond aren't necessarily going to be clustered exclusively in Silicon Valley or New York.
They're going to migrate to regions in the Midwest or specific areas in Europe and Asia that possess stable power grids, cool climates, and cheap industrial land.
This land rush dictates where your company might be forced to relocate its headquarters, or where you might want to consider moving if you want to be at the physical epicenter of the new economy.
It is wild how the demand for invisible digital intelligence is reshaping the physical map of the world.
And the research wraps up this section by proving that this acceleration touches absolutely everything.
When the core infrastructure of the global economy speeds up, the secondary ripple effects are massive.
Let's do a deep dive into the 3 specific, seemingly unrelated examples the source provides because they perfectly illustrate the butterfly effect of this technology.
First up, the explosion of the longevity economy and biohacking going mainstream. How does AI infrastructure connect to me living longer?
It's a direct one-to-one correlation.
For decades, biology has essentially been a data problem. We knew the human genome, but we couldn't compute the interactions fast enough.
The new AI infrastructure changes that.
AI models are now capable of simulating billions of molecular interactions, accurately predicting complex protein folding, and analyzing massive population-level public health data sets in a matter of hours.
Tasks that would have taken human researchers lifetimes.
Because of this massive acceleration in data processing, biohacking is transitioning from a fringe, experimental hobby for Silicon Valley billionaires into a highly commercialized mainstream medical sector.
We're looking at a near future of highly accessible, personalized medicine, bespoke dietary supplements engineered to your specific genetic makeup, and data-driven lifestyle optimization becoming a standard, expected consumer health product.
That is incredible. The second ripple effect the research notes is a major shift in the automotive industry.
It notes that major tech giants are suddenly pivoting and trying to become car companies. And conversely, legacy car companies are panicking.
This is a textbook example of shifting market boundaries driven by scaffolding.
When AI becomes the foundational infrastructure, the definition of a car fundamentally changes.
A vehicle is no longer primarily viewed as a mechanical mode of transportation.
It's a rolling, hyper-connected data center.
It's a highly complex hardware platform designed for continuous software deployment.
Wait, elaborate on that. What do you mean by a rolling data center?
Think about the sensors on a modern electric vehicle. LiDAR, external cameras, internal biometrics monitoring the driver's eye movement, real-time GPS, battery optimization algorithms.
A car is processing gigabytes of data every second.
It is what the industry calls an edge computing device.
Traditional century-old automakers are brilliant at bending metal and building mechanical engines, but they're severely struggling to build the complex software scaffolding required to manage an AI-driven vehicle securely.
Tech giants, however, already own the AI infrastructure, the cloud networks, and the software talent.
They view the car simply as a physical shell to house their operating system.
This tension is completely redefining the automotive supply chain, shifting the power away from the engine manufacturers and directly into the hands of the software developers.
And the third example the research gives is probably the most universally relatable one.
It argues that even our morning cup of coffee is being radically redefined by these global pressures.
Connect the dots for us. From AI servers to my espresso.
It sounds like a stretch, but it's deeply interconnected. The global supply chains for foundational commodities like coffee are incredibly delicate.
They're highly sensitive to microclimate shifts, geopolitical instability, and logistical friction.
The great acceleration means that the entire life cycle of that coffee bean is being intercepted by technology.
Agricultural yields in South America are being hyper-optimized by predictive climate AI.
The pricing of the beans is being dynamically adjusted millisecond by millisecond by global trading algorithms responding to satellite imagery of crop health.
The global shipping logistics are automated to reduce fuel consumption.
By the time you buy that cup of coffee in 2026, you are not just buying a roasted bean.
You are purchasing the physical end product of a massively accelerated AI-managed, hyper-efficient global network.
It really puts into perspective how totally inescapable this transition is.
You cannot just bury your head in the sand and opt out of the great acceleration.
It is dictating the real estate market. It is rewriting your job description. It is restructuring the global supply chain. And it is literally in your morning coffee.
So after exploring all of this incredible depth, after analyzing the messy reality of AI scaffolding, the urgent need to combat the loneliness epidemic with human friction, and the rise of individual empires and data center land grabs, what does it all actually mean?
How do we synthesize this?
As we navigate this massive collision of technology and humanity, what is the ultimate conclusion of this research?
The source material culminates in a singular, incredibly powerful imperative for the modern professional, and it all boils down to one word: intentionality.
We have to synthesize everything we've unpacked today and realize that the era of merely reacting to new technology is permanently over.
We can no longer afford the luxury of being passive consumers of these macro trends, just waiting around to see what the next major software update does to our workflow or how a new algorithm dictates our social lives.
The acceleration is too fast. If you're merely reacting, you're already obsolete.
The challenge for 2026, the ultimate mandate for every listener, is to be fiercely, unapologetically intentional.
We have to consciously, deliberately decide exactly how we want to integrate these overwhelmingly powerful tools into our lives in a way that actually serves our bottom line and aligns with our human values.
That is the defining takeaway. Intentionality means not just buying AI, but actively, painstakingly building the internal scaffolding that protects your proprietary data and actually empowers your team to do better work.
It means looking at the 70% loneliness statistic and consciously choosing to prioritize and premiumize genuine human connection within your organization.
Recognizing that authentic friction is the only antidote to the isolation of the digital age.
It means looking at the chaotic new economic realities, whether it's the democratization of the individual empire or the shifting physical real estate map.
And deliberately positioning your unique skill set to capture the newly created value, rather than allowing yourself to be swept away by the current.
Intentionality is the sole dividing line between being a helpless victim of the great acceleration and being a master of it.
Okay, as promised at the top of the show, we're all about delivering the bottom line here at the Bite-Sized Tech News TLDR.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's do a rapid-fire, no-fluff executive summary of the 3 absolutely most critical takeaways you need to write down and remember from this deep dive.
Number 1, AI success is no longer about the model. It's entirely about the integration.
It requires complex organizational scaffolding and a new breed of AI whisperers to bridge the massive gap between raw technical capability and safe, practical business application.
If you only focus on the shiny tech and ignore the messy integration, you will fail.
Number 2, authentic human connection is rapidly becoming a highly lucrative premium commodity.
The very technology designed to connect us is fueling a catastrophic epidemic of isolation that destroys productivity.
Therefore, professionals and organizations that deliberately leverage human friction, those who prioritize complex empathy, unscripted interaction, and genuine relationship building, will possess a massive, unautomatable competitive advantage in a frictionless world.
And number 3, the global economic architecture is undergoing a complete reset.
This acceleration is democratizing enterprise power, creating massive opportunities for single creators to build individual empires utilizing AI and blockchain.
Simultaneously, it's driving a massive, highly competitive physical land rush for the power and real estate required to build data centers, fundamentally shifting where the economic hubs of the future will be located.
Those are the 3 core tectonic shifts you need to watch, audit your skills against, and begin adapting to tomorrow morning.
And before we let you get back to your day, a quick reminder.
If you want to stay consistently ahead of these trends, make sure you head over and subscribe to the Bite-Sized Tech News TLDR YouTube channel.
We post highly targeted daily video updates breaking down the fast-moving tech news that directly impacts your industry and your bottom line.
It's the absolute fastest way to stay informed without getting overwhelmed.
Now, to officially close out today's deep dive, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
The research we dissected today posed a brilliant framing question, and we want to leave it with you.
We've talked extensively about the maturation of AI infrastructure, the urgent reset required in human connection, and the total remaking of the global economy.
Here's the question we want you to explore on your own as you navigate the rest of your week.
Looking at those 3 massive, deeply powerful forces, which one do you truly believe will shape your specific world, your daily career trajectory, the survival of your company, and your personal life the most in the year to come?
Are you going to be the architect who builds the vital new AI scaffolding for your industry?
Will you be the professional who masters the highly lucrative premium of human friction?
Or are you quietly gathering the tools to break away and build your own individual empire?
The great acceleration isn't coming. It's already here.
How you choose to navigate the collision is entirely up to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep adapting, keep questioning the consensus, and we'll catch you on the next one.